say small voice, but quite a loud voice. It would be like, what if you walk in that room and they just don't think you're cool enough? Pete Doherty and Paper Shambles used to go there a lot, and yeah, I had a few chats. I gave a painting to Pete once. It was there for a year. He didn't notice. Like, oh, a painting. I remember just taking some shrooms and just looking at my portfolio, being like, the face is literally like leaping out. If nothing ever becomes of this band, that's enough in a lot of ways.
Welcome, Alex. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
So you're in a rock. Is it a rock band? What Moonshine Heavies? I'll tell you what. Moonshine Heavies. What in your own words? What is the Moonshine Heavies?
Is this where the camera is?
Yeah, that's
interesting. You should ask because it's on the t-shirt. Yeah. Blues, punk, funk, and most importantly, drunk.
Nice. So where did you come up with the name?
So I answered the ad to join the group. They were a blues covers band. Not actually that into blues, but I thought I can do it. I've got a bluesy voice. And after being in the band for a while, we were obviously looking for a name, and they wanted something that was sort of prohibition sounding. I don't know, it just popped into my head, and then the Heavies was like, I think I was thinking like Arctic Monkeys, Moonshine Heavies, and I thought the Heavies is kind of like bringing the collect. Yeah, like we're bringing something.
Nice.
That was the idea anyway.
Yeah, no, that's fair. Well, Alex, like most of the guests, what we normally do is we kind of like start at the beginning before like the Moonshine Heavies, about your journey, and then like how you got to this place, and then like so can you tell us a little bit about what you've done in the past? And...
Yeah. So I'm not from London. I'm from Hull originally, which is in Yorkshire. Humberside. Yorkshire don't really want us. They're like, no, you're Humberside, and Humberside, I don't think we call it that anymore. Anyway, I consider myself a Yorkshire man. So I went to, I don't know if this is facts or not, but when I was in Hull, I believed it to be the second worst school in the whole of the UK, right? Because Brandsome, which used to be Europe's largest housing estate, council estate, my school was there, and that was like the second worst school in Hull, and I think Hull was the bottom nationally. So it's pretty, wasn't a great school. But, I think if you're willing to work at something, the teachers were there to give you a guiding hand if you wanted it. And being a thespian, not a lesbian, I obviously was into, drama and painting and drawing.
What did you like about it so much?
Well, if I'm honest, with art, I think you learn pretty quickly when you're younger. People just tell you're good at it, and you get pretty switched on if you've drawn something and adults walk by and like, whoa, what's this? You're like, I like this. So yeah, I suppose it's just nice people telling you that you're good at something. So
you got like quite a passion from it.
Yeah, a lot of it was drawing. I mean, I think I struggled to make a lot of friends when I was a lot younger. I don't know I've never been particularly sporty, so I used to spend a lot of time indoors, like flicking through the catalogue. I think before my time, I was stopping at like the lingerie section and drawing that, taking that out, this and that, and so that's it in terms of art. So there was never like an option of not doing that. I just think if you do it, you do it. And
did you always know that you were gonna end up being in a band, or was that?
Well, that's where the drama thing came in. Was I was on holiday with my parents, and there was a karaoke. I think I was about 10, 11, and cringy song. But I was just like, right, I'm gonna do a song, and I don't know why. And I ended up doing Words, which is it's a Bee Gees song, but in my 11-year-old mind, it was a song by Boyzone. And
I don't know. What's it called? Words?
Yeah.
No, I'll have to check it out.
Yeah,
My dad loves Bee Gees.
No, I mean, to be honest, it is a really good song. Like, as in, words are all I have to take your heart away. It's quite sweet. I just totally bossed it again. It's a bit like the drawing thing. Like it came off and people like patting me on the back, like whoa. And I thought, oh, this is quite good. And
you had that energy behind you as well when you.
Yeah, and I was like, oh wow, like I quite like this. And then I thought, how can I try and do more of this? And someone must have suggested to my parents, look at like musical theatre and stuff like that, which for me, like, it was quite good to finally find a bit of a club that I fitted in, because with the football team, and Hull's a big rugby town, You
just weren't interested.
I tried so many other sports and that, but it's just like, well, it's quite a funny story really. My dad was a big rugby fan, and I think when I was about 8, he took me to this rugby club, and you know what the pitch is like, right? So I just sort of daydreaming, being me, and I thought, why are they running all the way over there and putting that ball over there when there's one that's like right next to me? So someone passed me the rugby ball, and I just U-turned and just scored on our own try line, and everyone was like,
yeah,
what is
it's
idiot?
useless.
Yeah, and my dad was like, they're trying to bribe the kids next week, like, if you pass to my son, I'll give you a father, please.
Yeah.
And it just didn't happen. And I'd go to like football classes when I was older, and just thinking about the tuck shop after, those Clipper drinks and that. And just my mind was elsewhere. And I think I can look after myself now. It's been a long journey. But when I was much younger, I just think the sport thing, it just reminded me of like, bullies. They were the people who, were going to crush me, right? So, and then so did a bit of musical theatre outside of school and that. There wasn't a lot of money for stuff like that, but my parents found it, which I'm appreciative of. And then not long after that, I just found all that a bit cringy, because it was a bit, there were a lot of pushy parents. It
was quite competitive.
No, one the competitive thing, it was like, I reached an age where I was like, none of the girls fancy me. I'm fat. I'm not cool. And I just went straight into boxing for a bit. I just did a total U-turn. Just because I was sick of like just not being, I guess I was just sick of being like the friend zone as a teenager, right? So I went and did that for a couple of years, and it was the first time I'd had like lad mates, do you know what I mean? Which I think it might be, for most people that's like a given, I guess. But for me, like to actually feel like part of like the pack, because I had to, pay my dues. The first thing you do with the boxing was like this thing called the 4 pubs, where it'd be like the 4 pubs in the square that you'd run around, warm up for an obese kid, which I was. I think I was 13. I had like a 48 waist. They measured me for some costume, right? Wow. So that's pretty big. I've still got a long way to go now, I know. But so anyway, so back then, I did it, and I just remember like thinking everybody was just getting further and further away from me. But I finished it. I was really proud of myself that I'd finished it. I could see that my dad was as well. That's like a running theme, trying to impress Dad, I think. I've had therapy, and he's no longer with us as well.
Sorry to hear that.
It's all right. We can touch on that later if you want. It's quite important with the songwriting, I think. It's definitely valid. Anyway, and I just had this, not really a brainwave, but I just thought, if I just turn up to this, I'll get a little faster each time. And I enjoyed it. It's the first time I'd ever really done exercise, to feel your body actually working and like the blood sweating and
that serotonin. Like,
yeah, and I remember like hitting the bag and just being like, this feels good. And even when I first started sparring, getting hit, I was like, this feels. I don't mind this. I was in my head. I was expecting like if somebody like hit me, I'd just be like devastated. But I remember just sparring, just getting whacked in the face, and I thought, no, you're gonna get one now. And then just feeling myself evolving that way. I loved it. Did that for a couple of years. Was carded, boxer, 2-3 bouts. And the reason I stopped was he'd booked me the neck like a rematch. He said, right, it's in Mick Bromby, by the way, from Hull, absolute legend. Taught me loads of lessons, all the lads there. But anyway, I stopped doing it because he said, I've got you a rematch. It's in like 8 weeks. And I did the count, and I was like, man, that's December 12th. And I was like, oh, I need my mince pies, I need my pate, I need my cheese. Because I've been on a diet of like just literally fruit, vegetables, lettuce, chicken.
Did you lose a lot of weight? Did you?
Loads, tons.
Did you?
Completely tanned, you know. By the time I was in year 11, I was a different person, like, to, you know, aesthetics-wise and to look at.
How did you feel like around that time? Do you remember what like the difference was like when you was overweight, how you felt versus when you'd lost a load of weight?
Oh, man, I loved it. I mean, I used to get notes, like, on Valentine's Day where, like, one girl sent me this thing being like, you'd be really fit if you just lost weight. And you're like, But it was true. Yeah.
Do you know what? Sometimes, I know it's bad, but sometimes like hearing the truth helps.
Yeah.
It helps guide us to where we need to get to.
Yeah, I mean, you know, it's valid. I mean, there was a compliment in there. I think the thing that boxing gave me, we'd have to dwell on boxing too much, but just that confidence to walk around and knowing that you can throw a punch, you can duck a punch, and just that if it hits the fan, you'll be okay. And I just think you walk differently, you know, knowing that like you've got it probably covered if it's just you and another person, or you and maybe two people who don't know how to box. You know, you can fight yourself out of a corner, and I think it's valid now, even as a singer actually. Just I think because it is a bit of a fight when you go out there with, you know, the audience out there, you on the microphone. You know, there is the possibility, although it's never happened, that people could just like hell abuse or throw stuff at you, or you got to feel strong. You got to be that strong person, I think, in front of a crowd. And I think that's part of it. I think it's just knowing that. But
that's what I love about boxing, to be honest. Like the discipline, the kind of confidence, the training. Like you're around like a group of people that are all striving to do like similar things. So yeah, and I think like when you're young as well, it's always really important to get into some sort of activity. I
think we had a really good coach who just made us respect the sport, taught us, you know, not to be bullies, and just like things like the hardest part. If you get through the hardest part, that's when you know you've won. You know, things like that. Like when you're training and you're like when you're about to give up, that is the moment between winning and losing, or just getting that extra bit fitter. You know, or even just in a bout or sparring, you know, if when you're like, if you believe, oh my God, I'm over, this is it, I can't do it anymore, then you're not going to be able to do it. You need to find that voice that's like, I'm doing this, and okay,
I've got this.
Yeah. Otherwise, you're just going to get sparked out, aren't you?
Yeah. Most likely.
Yeah.
So what happened? So what happened after the boxing?
I just got into drinking and hanging out on the street and doing a bit of drugs and that, and then
having a good time.
Yeah, because I'd missed out on a lot of it being so disciplined with boxing. Because I was there 5 nights a week and Sunday for like 2 years. So I just reached a point where I just wanted to be a teenager, I think. And then for 2 years, just did the whole thing really, and then college, and then went away to art school, and then that was completely different.
Yeah. Different sides of the spectrum, really, isn't it? Like,
yeah, I mean, what was fun in Hull, or what impressed people when you're 17, 18 at that age, was drinking as much as you possibly can, pouring a bottle of wine over your head, and being like, yeah. You get to University of the Arts London, Central St Martin's, when everyone's gone to a private sixth form. They're just like, what is this? You know, and I just didn't get it for a long while, you know.
It was completely different.
Completely different, like the whole socialising, call it socialising, but basically Friday night was getting wrecked, and that was my thing for years. You get to uni and they're just doing it a different way, a lot of the people, especially art school. You know, it's a mixture of people from all backgrounds. It's one of the best things about it. But I'd been quite sheltered, I think, for a long time, you know. Intellectually sheltered and culturally sheltered, ignorant in a lot of ways, you know. And coming to London and going to art school opened up possibilities and new perceptions, you know. Really.
Was it a bit of a shell shock? Was it a bit
Well, I mean, I don't...
overwhelming?
Yeah, 100%. It was quite lonely at first. I failed the first year. Lived on my own in that first year, and it just felt like I didn't have any mates. It was really, really hard because everybody just seemed so different from me. And I went back home for the summer, and my dad and my brother have always, not always, but, you know, for around that time they were growing weed. So there was always a constant supply. And that was probably one of the reasons I failed as well, because I was just non-stop stoned, basically. And I just remember thinking that I hated it at art school. And then when I went back to Hull, it's not that I hated it there. I just was like, I don't belong here either. In fact, I feel really I belong there now. And I thought I'm going to have to... And they give me the opportunity, the uni, to do it again, to do the year again. And I went into it with a slightly better mindset. And luckily, there were people in that year who were a little bit more like me. And some of those people I'm still friends with now.
Nice.
And
did you stop the smoking and stuff like that? Or?
Not for a long time.
No, really carried it.
No, I didn't stop until I met my wife, to be honest.
Yeah. No, I only say that because like after the first year of like failing, it was like, and then you had to redo that again.
Yeah.
It's like, all right, now I've really got to knuckle down. But I suppose
I knuckled down enough. And in hindsight, with art school, it's one of the best in the world, St. Martin's. They only let in 22% of applicants. They've had, you know, people through the door like Alexander McQueen, Jarvis Cocker, Stella McCartney. There's loads of like creative people who've been there. I did kind of waste it, and I would say that being stoned most of the time and not really realising what it was. In hindsight, it's at art school, right? That for those 3 years you're there, you've essentially got all the bills paid for, your accommodation. You can be as creative as you want, essentially build a portfolio in those 3 years. This is what I wish I could tell myself back then. Build a portfolio of the best work you can do with none of life's pressures and network in those 3 years. Find the gallery owners, find the people that matter, and then you can come out with a firing line like that. And
then when you go out into the real world, you've like created foundations for yourself.
Yeah, whereas I think
But what actually happened?
What actually happened was I think I was so desperate to go to London, right? I just wanted excitement, craving excitement. I was always going to do art because it was the thing I was, as well as singing, the thing I was best at, you know. And I quite liked the challenge of going to the hardest place. And I believed in my heart that I was good enough to be there. I was quite arrogant in my artistic ability. Although I felt I didn't get in the first time with the interview. I did it. This might be boring, but you're supposed to do foundation year before you go. But it says in the small prints, some applicants might be let in.
Regardless.
Yeah. And I thought, well, that's me, innit? And I did impress on the day.
Even less, like, so it's an even smaller percentage of that 22%.
Yeah, exactly. And I was like, gosh, it's fine. And I put my tweed jacket on and had my mullet and had a spliff, and I was like, I've got this. And I think they were impressed. They did try to get me on their foundation course after it, but they were full up. And I thought, well, I'll do it next time. And then just afterwards, remember just going straight to Camden. You could buy magic mushrooms from the counters back then. I remember just taking some shrooms and just looking at my portfolio, being like, the face is literally like leaping out. Like, I'm the best artist in the world. And then getting the train back and just being like the cab driver was on the radio, and I was like, what is going on? Yeah, and then just did the interview the year after to remember my face, and I think it was enough that I tried again. I think, you know, he's serious, he's come back, you know. He did what he asked, and he's here knocking on the door. But I had loads of chats over the years with certain tutors, and one of them's died recently. And I did reach out to him because, you know, me and a couple of friends, we were dicks, really. We were just essentially a bunch of lads in like quite a... We're just in an arty environment, yeah.
Environment.
Yeah, and we were just hugely immature. We've matured since, but he sat me down a few times and was like, do you want to be here? Do you realise how many people want to be here? And you're just wasting it. And then I'd rein it in for a bit, and then it'd be same old. But then, the best thing with art school is I met my wife, to be honest.
Okay. Is that where you met her?
Yeah, she was at the bar night, and remember just seeing her like blue eyes across the courtyard. There was like a flashlight, like a police siren, like pew. And she's pretty much just sat on her own. I just remember thinking, why is nobody talking to that girl? So I went over and chatted to her, and I was like, I can sing anything, me. She's like, yeah. And I was like, what do you want to hear? She's like, I like Neil Young. I was like, all right, I'll sing you some Neil Young. And that was basically our first sort of meeting. But after a while, she said, if you want to be with me, you've got to stop
singing Neil Young.
You got to stop doing all these things, because it wasn't just that.
Oh, all the partying, basically.
Yeah. I mean, at the time, the first flat I lived in, my mum, I think she believed she was doing me a favour. She lived in Islington. She had a partner who was a doctor who lived in Islington, and she worked in a pub called the Rosemary Branch, and opposite it was this old factory building, Thomas Briggs building, just by the canal. And she said, oh, you'll love it. It's full of artists and musicians, and they've all got like flats in there, and they're painting. What that actually meant was it was just full of crackheads and heroin addicts. There were painters and there were artists, but there were some of the shadiest people I've ever met in my life.
So I take it you took her up on that offer then?
I mean, I lived there for a year, in that year that I failed, and I had to get out because I just use your imagination. But there was some, I mean, I met Pete Doherty there a few times, which is interesting, yeah. Because the guy who had the top flat, top two, I think, used to have this massive industrial door, which I think was to keep like dealers and the police out, because he was a huge crackhead. He used to be a musician in the Fall, which they were like an 80s group. Marky Smith's the singer, and loads of people have been in and out of the Fall. But this guy was living off, has managed to live off the royalties as an active drug user since all that time. And especially back then, like anything rock and roll and debaucherous, I just loved. That for me at the time, I thought that's what it was all about. Not writing songs and singing. It was about
having a good time.
Yeah, and then but I idolised the guy, and he did actually. He was one of the first people who said to me, "If you are serious about being a songwriter, you need to write a song every single day." Which I started doing the past 5 years from today, from where we are now. But yeah, so Pete Doherty and Baby Shambles used to go there a lot, and yeah, I had a few chats. I gave a painting to Pete once. It was there for a year. He didn't notice. Like, oh, a painting. And I remember saying to him, like, I can't be a singer, Pete. I'm just fat. And he was like, don't worry about it. Look at me. And he pulled his. I can't really do the Doherty voice very well, but he pulled his top up and he had all these like scars and that. And he was like, I've got all these marks, and I'm with the world's top supermodel, and she can't stand my cough. Which and that's how the conversation went. But I was just like, oh my god, it's Pete Doherty. Yeah. Actually, the first time I met him, my mum rang me. She's like, Pete's in the pub. You need to get yourself over here. So I took this guitar. And I was like, oh, he's in the corner. I'm like, oh fuck, I'm good. How do I do this? How do I look cool? And I was like, Pete, I've got this guitar for you. And he just looked up and he went, and I had a pint, and I've got this drink for you. And he was like, I don't drink. And I was just really crestfallen. He was like, of course I do. And then he just signed it and drew a little like smiley face with that hat I used to wear on. And I say I treasured it, but I don't know what happened to that guitar. My brother probably sold it. So this conversation's all over the place, isn't it? Yeah, I'm just conscious, like if I die tomorrow, I need to get it all out.
What happened to your dad?
My dad died of cancer.
Did he?
Yeah, which is horrible. You essentially just see someone whittle away to like a bag of bones. They can't eat, they can't swallow, they can't go to the toilet for themselves, and he didn't get a diagnosis early enough, I think. It was prostate cancer. Used to check your balls, guys, or your gooch, whatever it is. Just check. Yeah, and actually, There's a little bit of him inside this. His ashes are in
really?
here. Yeah.
In the necklace?
So, because he was always taking us, to practice room. Because my first band was with my brother and a few people from Hull. Again, dodgy characters, but I think we've spoken enough about dodgy characters. But my dad was always taking us, with all the gear to the practice rooms, and he came to gigs when it was me, my brother and I should say me and my brother, in the whole way. And it was just sad when he died, obviously, because he was my dad. And I've done more since he's died than I had done in a long time with music, and it is quite painful that he's not there to see it. I mean, it's not like I'm on the Glasgow stage just yet, although I hope to be, and I believe in my heart I will be, But so that's why I bring this on every gig, every time I'm performing. I mean, this is a performance to a degree, isn't it? It's a conversation, but I'm here stepping to you as the singer of Moonshine Heavies.
So you said you'd done like loads more after he passed away.
Yeah, like
was that actually the case, or did you just feel like?
No, it is the case, and I think it's probably the most relevant part to the Motive podcast. Right, is just that for years I think I was just living in like fear of what other people thought about me. Like
whilst your dad was alive.
Yeah, like I'd done a lot of. I'd take my guitar with me, songs that I'd written, doing the what do they call it, open mic nights. When people just do a song or two maximum. And I'm good at writing a song. I'm a really good singer. I'm a good enough guitarist to write a song. But playing and singing, at that time in particular, I couldn't do both well enough. If I was playing guitar, the singing would drop because I'd be thinking so much about what I'm doing down here. Yeah.
Yes.
And so anyway, I often thought like for years I couldn't find people to be in a band with. I always thought it'd be like the dream where it'd be people or you just chance happen to meet people. And so many times people said, why don't you like look, on Gumtree or Back of Enemy or whatever it was at the time. And I just think there was always this, I say small voice, but quite a loud voice. It would be like, what if you walk in that room and they just don't think you're cool enough, or they laugh at you, or it's whatever you choose to sing is not what they like or whatever. And
which is quite strange because like even the boxing, it goes back to what you were saying earlier. Like if you don't have that right mindset, high chances are you're going to fail from the offstart.
Absolutely, and I think a lot of that changed because my dad died. We had COVID. It's become really like unhappy, angry, aggressive, loads of emotional baggage that I hadn't dealt with, obviously, for years. A lot of stuff from my childhood as well. And coming out of therapy, the single thing that therapy really does is just ultimately makes you just be more positive. That it's all about changing your mindset to being positive. I mean, I spent all those years like really worried about answering an ad. And I answered an ad, as I said earlier, and Capiche, he's one of my closest friends now. He just said, he's sort of exaggerating. He's like, I thank Gumtree every day for you answering this ad. And he says to me, you could have been a singer in any band you wanted, And I think it's really nice to get that validation from other musicians. That's also helped with the songwriting, because there's nothing like it where if you've written something on other people whose abilities you admire as musicians, all say that's great and mean it, and it excites them. Like if nothing ever becomes of this band, that's enough in a lot of ways. Just share your music with other people.
Go on that journey.
Yeah, just to have an idea and see how it develops, and it being truly creative. I wish I'd have known that
before.
Yeah, but I do also think that things happen for a reason as well.
Yeah. 100. So you actually found it quite. So your whole mindset actually changed after your dad's, and it was more of a kind of like.
It's like an awakening, really.
Awakening, yeah. Which is a powerful feeling, because some people don't even ever feel that, do they? So for you to have that feeling at some point in your life, that's allowed you to. Yeah,
I honestly think everybody should have therapy, and a lot of people think that they should only have it if they're damaged or they don't deserve to have therapy, or I'm not crazy, I don't need it. You know, listen, there's not a soul on this planet who would not benefit from talking to somebody impartial who's not their friend, who's not their family, whose job it is to just listen and not judge, and if they can, help you understand yourself. It's about giving you the tools, and I really did use those tools, I think. I mean, for me, I had a big problem with like my inner critic, you know, and feeling like I was always searching for approval or whatever. But I've
still got that problem now, to be fair.
Yeah. Well, the thing is, it's like one thing that really helps me is you got to view your head as a hotel, like a guest room. And if there's this guest that's just been an absolute prick, it's like, get out of the hotel, because this is sacred. Because just negativity just breeds, you know. Like I used to, before therapy, I might have been a lot to do with weed as well, I guess, back in the day, but just thinking like, that person's trying to fuck me over, or like, I keep swearing, I'm sorry guys. You know, like, they intentionally did that to screw me over. Or they've hidden it, or, you know, whatever. And then I'd spend like sometimes like all day, like in my day job, just being like, how can I get back at that person? You know, total wasted energy, and it turns you into like such a horrible person. And you're like, and then, you know, your therapist would be like, have you thought about why they're being like that? Or what if you was to view the situation from their point of view? How would you advise them? Or what would you think about you if you were them? And then you start thinking, man, well, that person's they're just coming to do a job, or you know, they might have their own pressures. And I don't know, I just came out of it a lot more mellower,
a lot more open-minded,
accepting, can take criticism a lot better, way less aggressive, don't jump down people's throats, and just generally just more chill. I mean, I know people who have therapy, you know, weekly, and it is expensive. You can get it on the NHS. I'm not sure if it's that good, but I think it's definitely worth a try. If you're lucky enough to get therapy, you should definitely do it. But I had enough where we'd reached a point, and he was like, I think you'd be all right. And touch wood I have, you know. Yeah, I mean, I've still got like a mum who's got cancer, but she's had it like in remission for like about 10 years, which is wild.
Wow, really?
She's always been quite unwell, actually, since being a kid. And, you know, it can get complicated. So, yeah, I mean, ultimately, I think if there's nothing you can change about a situation, it's not worth worrying about it, because the worrying, like, how does that benefit the situation? It doesn't. Worrying will never get you out of a tight spot. And generally, anxiety is about worrying about stuff that's yet to happen, you know, and it might not happen. So just try to be present in the moment. I think that's kind of an Eastern philosophy, really. But it's I think it's true. I think don't worry about the past; it's gone. Try to plan for the future, but don't spend too much of your mental space thinking about what the future might be. Just make today as best as you possibly can.
It's quite interesting, because I feel like I can resonate with you a bit with around this kind of like being a bit in your head too much, and you said about like you know, it might be an Eastern philosophy. It's like, you know, is that like what goes on in London? Is that like the rat race? Is that I'm curious to know how we are we all like that? Like,
I think I don't even think it's modern times. I just think being a person every day is just
complicated. Can be
so
just quite
challenging. Yeah, I mean, maybe London's got a bit to do with it, but that's not to say that people who don't live in London don't have as complex problems. But I do think something about like a capital city does draw ambitious people, and you know, if you're ambitious a lot of the time, it can just be forward thinking on my plan, and you can get lost. Do you know what I mean? Yeah, it is a bit of a rat race. Yeah, but
yeah,
just try not to be pricks. You know.
That's
especially on the underground.
That's the best way. So how did we get to Moonshine?
Yeah, so I answered the Gumtree ad. was a blues covers band, and as soon as I joined, I knew I was going to try my very best to turn it into an originals band, which is a slowish process. So I'd kind of like drop like a bit of an idea to one person, and then I'd be like, "You heard about this song?" And then slowly just trying to get them all working on it. And then so we was free at rehearsal. I'm like, "Oh, should we try that thing?" And I'm like, "Oh, it's that." Yeah. And so just dropping them in basically. And now we're a couple of lineup changes, mainly just the drummers we've had. Everybody in there is creative and open-minded, and we work through the challenges of turning something from an idea into this creative thing that functions on stage. Drum fills leading to the next section, and I love that, where you're like, well, how do we get from that bit to that? Sometimes people are like, you can't go from that to that. It's too slow there, and it's too fast if you do that. And I'm like, yeah, but what if we go down, 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 doo, 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 and they're like, okay, we'll try it. And they go, oh yeah, it works. And you got all that sort of just back and forth, and sometimes it's annoying. But
who are the sort of people that inspired you?
No, well, it's a cliche, but I'm Northern, and I love Oasis, and I just think
Oasis fan.
Yeah, I mean,
who isn't?
Well, at art school, I can tell you not many.
Really?
I mean, I do think there's a bit of intellectual snobbery in there, and there's a lot of those people do love Oasis, really, but they just don't like to admit it.
It's like a dirty secret.
Yeah, it's almost like it's not clever, and I think a lot of that is because of the sort of laddishness of it. But if writing songs that have stood the test of time for as long as they have, that stick in everybody's mind, and they're anthems where, on the whole, most people know the words to it, that's clever to me. You know what I mean? Even if, I guess lyrically it's not Shelley or Byron, but it speaks to the universal truth. A lot of their songs, it's not that fancy, but it tells you what it's like to be a person. It helps you understand the daily struggle. I think a lot of Noel Gallagher's best songs are the B-sides, where he's much more introverted. It's just him on an acoustic, like Talk Tonight, Master Plan, songs like that. Rocking Chair. If you haven't heard of those, you should check them out.
Yeah, I can't say I have.
Oh man, especially songs like Rocking Chair, and that's a good one. I'll give you a list after of Noel acoustic. It's like practically a different band. I can understand why he probably wanted to go solo, really. Anyway, I just, when I was younger, to see them looking and talking like we did, with their Manchester accent, just a basic Northern accent, wearing what everybody's wearing at the time, the Rumbro, the Radidas, this and that, and just basically just having a laugh. It looked different to everything else you'd seen on Top of the Pops or whatever. It was just like I can believe I might be able to do that, because they just made it appear possible. And Noel's, I've kind of a bit of obsessive really, but I've listened to almost every interview he's ever done. Because he's just hilarious, as is Liam. I know that at the start of Oasis, or before they went massive, most of those big hits like Live Forever and Champagne Supernova, or just most of that debut album, some of the second album, were all written like in his dad's sort of store cupboard. He was probably skiving off the job, but he worked at it. He was always thinking about the big plan. So I try to do the same. I mean, I've got a job. There's a great creative job, a company called Based Upon. But every lunchtime, as I say, for the past 5 years, I get my acoustic out, and I try to deal with whatever emotions are there, or what I'm thinking about, or whatever's going on that day. I might already have like something in my head, like a melody or a bass line or whatever. Pluck it out on the guitar. I guess shut my eyes, or not shut my eyes, and just let it come out. And sometimes like you just really, really surprise yourself. That's why I do it, because almost every day something really good, in my opinion, and on the whole the band's opinion, something comes out that's brilliant. And I just, it's taken a long time to get these songs recorded and pushing them out to the world, but I just know, like, amongst the volume of them, there's going to be some that will connect with people in a big way. That's what I believe. I just think it's a matter of time. And I think one good thing about modern times, the music industry is, at the moment, which it wasn't maybe 10, 15 years ago, is you can look however you want. You know, there's some big lads and some big girls out there. There's some old boys out there who've been around for a while, and with TikTok or whatever, you can just, if you have the right song and it connects with people, your life can change. And I've gone from a position of like being like sweating and terrified of performing in front of people to joining the band, feeling like you're part of a gang and stepping out where you're there as a team. It's just so much more powerful. To being afraid of an audience, to just literally want it to be as big as possible. Like, the bigger the better, yeah, honestly. And it's so fun to just be there on like the knife's edge where anything could happen. You could say whatever you want on the mic. You could, I mean, one thing I like doing is one of our songs, it's on Spotify actually. It's not been streamed nowhere near as much as it should be. But the last 10 seconds, there's some big like Axl Rose notes, you know, like some big old screaming, like, and I just like to pick somebody in the audience and just slowly walk towards them while screaming, and it's just really funny because they're just like, they don't know what to do. Do you know what I mean? And normal life can just be so boring that I just love the thrill of that. And I do really, you know, quite like a drink, and it suits me. You know, after the gigs, you know, people are like, do you want a pint? Do you want a whiskey? I'm like, yeah. Just don't say no.
So what sort of venues have?
Well, the biggest one we've done so far is the O2 Academy Islington 2, but still, it's an O2 Academy, and it was a big achievement. You know, I think at this stage it's about trying to just play as much as you can, rack up those good venues. We'd really like to do the festivals next year, and a big part of that is it's like applying for a job. Really, you have an electronic press kit, EPK, just some fancy pictures of your links to your music and just where you've played and what you've done. And I think we're definitely ticked enough boxes to jump the next hoop. We're doing it all ourselves at the moment. You always get these sharks online who are like, you know, give us a couple of grand and we'll have a team do this for you, and you break it down and they're just absolute con men.
Yeah.
But yeah, we'll do it ourselves. Hopefully somebody will jump in.
Is it hard to trust people in like the type of work you're doing?
Yeah. You always get people who want to do your PR and charge you for playlisting and things like that. You know, it's about essentially paying the money, and then they will try to get you on a playlist. And to an extent that is true. There are genuine people who do that and will do the work, and they will approach people who do playlists, but they can't guarantee anything. They've got to like the song. Our last single, we did get a guy who worked in our PR, and we did get some radio play, BBC introducing, Future Hits Radio, things like that. But yeah, and that's because they like the music as well, you know. So, but there are a lot of people out there who are just totally. I don't even know why they're in music, because they can't care about it if they just want your music and then just leave you with nothing. It's like, just do something else, man. You know, like, how can you get pleasure from that? I don't understand it, you know what I mean? Maybe they get backstage passes to places, or they've got bragging rights, but yeah, I once worked with whatever, but yeah.
Well, yeah, it's probably quite different for you because you've always followed your passion of like what you've really enjoyed.
Yeah.
Where, you know, I mean, some people's passion can be making money, but then I suppose money's normally a byproduct of something.
What I don't get is there are a lot of better ways to make money fast, and, you know, probably more profitable ways than that as well,
than the type of industry you're in.
Yeah, I think it's like a pyramid, really. The people at the very top are making the money. Like, everything at this stage is really kind of investing, I guess. It's
and
a
having
bit
some
like
fun and like enjoying it.
That's got to come first. You know, you enjoying the performing, the singing, you playing. That's why you do it. But it's a bit like any business. Like, if you just invented the world's best sandwich, or some, I don't know, this that was like a Pez dispenser, and you're like, everybody is gonna love this. But if only 5 people have heard of it and nobody can see great shots of it, or nobody's written about it, then no one's going to know that it's there to have a slice, right? So it feels like it's a little bit like that. But I don't know, like, I feel like there's people out there who know how this actually works, and we're just guessing, you know. If there is someone who can just say, listen, right, this is what really happens, just do that. Because if somebody could just give me a plan about what you need to do, tickle someone's arm, I don't know. Or do you know what I mean? Like, just help us out, because it's a minefield.
Yeah. The thing is, I think there's a little bit of, like, there's obviously skill involved, but then there's obviously a bit of potluck as well. And it's like, some people get very, you know, don't get me wrong, they work very hard, and I'm sure you have, but there's that, you know, there's opportunities that present themselves, and they don't present themselves to everybody that plays exactly the same game. Yeah. So it's a little bit, but it doesn't mean that if you don't keep persevering for long enough.
That's what I'm hoping for. Yeah, is, you know, we'll just keep doing it. The songs are getting better and better all the time. We love it for ourselves, and just being around long enough for people to take notice. You know, we do a really amazing live show, and the songs sound fantastic, and it's not going to get crapper, is it? I mean,
no, that's it. Yeah. Well, it shouldn't, should it? Unless you start falling out of love with what you're doing, and it's we'll just
But like I say, I can't, because I need that guitar and to literally, like, singing. I thought about this before, like dealing with thoughts and emotions, right? You get to, even in that chem store, right? But it's a store, in case my wife's listening. There's no chemicals. She worries about me. You essentially you're almost just shouting to the world. Whatever's bothering you, you just
it's a form of expression.
It out. Yeah. And I'm never not going to need to do that. It is pretty much the way I deal with my emotions and my thoughts. And once it's written or sung about, or even just if nobody hears that song, you know, if I just spent, like, I don't know, half an hour singing about how much, I'm trying to think of an example that wouldn't offend somebody. Like, I don't know, like, I was waiting for half an hour to use the coffee machine, and then someone got in front of me, and I thought, I really would like to just headbutt you. You know, like that, you know, like, once that's done and that thought's gone, then that doesn't bother me anymore. Then I can deal with something slightly better.
Yeah, because it goes back to, you know, what you were talking about, what you was like before, and like before therapy. It's like sometimes when you're living in your own head for too long, you turn a problem into such a even bigger problem than it needs to be.
Oh man, it was always way bigger than it ever was.
And like, this is why music is, like, probably really helpful to you, because knowing that you can express yourself through that, it's like you're releasing any baggage that you've kind of got internally. So
you don't look like a madman talking to yourself if there's a guitar in your hand.
If you're singing out loud. Yeah. That makes sense.
Or screaming into your pillow, you know. It's like that, isn't it, I guess?
So what would you say to someone that wanted to get into music, get into being in a band?
I'm still very much trying to get into music, but what I will say is I feel very creatively fulfilled, and if I could offer anybody any advice, and I guess it's the same in life really, is just don't listen to your inner critic, don't be afraid, speak to other people who like music, basically answer ads and just be unafraid and just believe in yourself, really. And I, like, you know, last 5 years, 3 with a lot more intensity, I've played every day, you know, and I'm definitely seeing the benefits of that, both as a guitarist, as a singer, because it pushes you as well, you know, like, even as a singer, that there was stuff where, like, a year ago, I'd struggle to sing a note like that was that high. And now just bossing it left, right, and centre, and then it's the next note where you're like, I need to. Don't always get that every time, and then, you know, as the weeks progress, you're just doing it. Especially the more you do it as well.
Yeah.
And fear as a singer, like, if you're scared that you might not hit the note, then chances are you don't. You got to just feel it. I mean, now if it's a big one, I just hear it in my head, and I just think, just do it.
Yeah, just do it.
Yeah, and it always comes out. The second you think, how am I singing this? I mean, where, you know, best case scenario, it's not as good as it could have been.
Yeah.
But that's music in general. A lot of it should just be on feel. and instinct, you know.
I get that even with the podcast. I'm always thinking, okay, how am I going to say this, or how am I going to introduce that, or how am I going to... and it's like...
You're very good at this, though, George, I must say.
Nah.
I've been watching loads of these.
Yeah, thank you. No, I appreciate it. But you sometimes overthink the situation, and then just by doing is enough. And then as you kind of go through your journey, you can kind of reevaluate, you can look at things in a different way. But yeah, it's been really important to not be your own worst critic, I suppose. That's the...
Well, actually, you reminded me of something else. I do a lot of drawing on my iPad on the way into work. And I was looking at doing some animation, but the old school stuff, you know, it's like, like one drawing laid on top of another. So I got this animation book, and the main thing I took from it was like, the author of it was like, just draw. It was basically like, just put the pen on the paper. Don't worry about what style you have. Just put the pencil on the paper. You'll soon find out how to do it. And it's like that, innit, I guess.
Yeah, and it's just like...
Yeah, I mean, it's good. I haven't done as much visual art as I would have liked. It's just time. I'm not making excuses. I do what I can. I did this. That was me. And
nice.
And the back as well. You should stream 2 fingers, guys. This is the... I'm not going to knock that mic on, mate.
No, it's all right. Go on.
This is the artwork for it. Can you see that? 2 fingers. Am I in shot?
No, you're not. You're going to need to move to your left.
Oh, you just get on my backside.
Yeah. You can see it.
Can you see the whole thing? It's important.
Yeah. There you go.
Yeah. So...
And you designed that yourself?
Yeah, but it's beyond it just being 2 simple fingers for me. I thought it was quite funny to just literally just have 2 fingers, but you see that everywhere, you know. I was like, well, how can we make this just a little bit more surreal? Because I love surrealism. So I just chop them off. And then I looked at it and I used my fingers as reference, and it was 2 white fingers, and I thought, well, that says something rather different to what I am intending, especially in our group. We've got 3 people of Asian heritage, and I just thought, well, let's have 1 brown one in there, 1 white one in there, bring everybody together, a sign of defiance and unity. That's what that is. And that's what art school gives you, thinking beyond just the images, like how does this appear to other people? What are you trying to say with this image?
Yeah.
And I think... as much as I wasted a lot of art school, there was enough of it.
You picked up some certainly good skills from it.
Even just the thought processes, you know.
Oh, so I wanted to ask you as well, like how? So you've got a child.
Yes.
You're a father.
Elodie.
And like how do you juggle being in a rock band? You've obviously got a job because the rock band isn't paying you an absolute fortune. So like, how do you juggle that sort of lifestyle?
With difficulty, but nothing that's easy is worth having, right? Everything that's worth something is always going to be challenging. I've just got to plan. My wife is much more organised than I am. She's got a diary. I write things in the diary, hope that she doesn't scratch them out. Just be the best dad when I can. I mean, for me, like, I've had to keep rehearsal to once a week, you know, because I've got to be there for my daughter to feed her at night, and I want to be. I love her. She's amazing. She's better than both her parents, you know.
I think sometimes the challenge is, like, obviously you've got to pay the bills.
Yeah.
And then you've got to make sure you look after your child and your wife, but then you've also got to make sure you look after yourself as well.
I mean, the thing is, with being a parent, just for context, she is 1 in 2 weeks.
Oh.
So, you know, we've almost done that full first year. You are just tired all the time, but you just get used to it. You half the time with a child, you wake up, they could have been up like 3-4 times in a night. Dummy's gone. Where's the dummy? In a pitch black. Oh, Jesus. Where's the dummy? Oh, I can't do this anymore. You know, you find it in your armpit, like, and then you're like, whoa, that was awful.
Your armpit of all
and
places.
Then, you know, an hour and a half later, it's the same thing. So you can wake up just, how can I even do this? And then you just get up, you get out of bed, you have a coffee, and you just have your day. And it's just like that. And then, obviously, they just reward you by you're essentially their favourite person. You know, they love you. You know, they don't have a choice, but they're just, you know, the way they look at you, and she smiles and she's so funny. She's a bit of a rocker already, I think. And it's not just me who says it, which is interesting, really, because I'm a rebellish now. You know, I was in the teenage years, but as a kid, I was hugely introverted and actually quite shy. So people see this like sort of wild baby who's like stealing other people's food and that, and like just being crazy. And the thing that she's taking after me, but I'm not sure, because this is me now. That wasn't me at her age. You know.
That's interesting. That's an interesting.
And maybe that has an effect. You know, the person you are today.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
I mean, obviously the DNA is like obviously valid, but like she's picking up on the person I think.
You
mum and dad are, yeah.
Yeah.
And I don't think Juliet would mind me saying, you know, she's had therapy as well. She struggled with OCD and anxiety. That's totally changed her as well.
It's quite common anyway for a lot of people, isn't it?
And she's just grown as a person massively. She's so much more confident. And actually being a mum has really helped as well. Like, she's just... where she used to worry, she just had to get stuck in because we've got this baby, and she's made tons of new friends. She's always had great friends as well. But yeah, it is a struggle being a parent with everything we've got on. But she's added so much to our lives as well, and we're meeting new people. In a lot of ways, it means your life isn't static. For me, like the thing I struggle with most is just feeling like I'm in the same spot. You know what I mean? And I think
you don't feel that fulfillment, that
purpose. I'm always looking for something. I do get quite bored easily, but one thing I think, because I'm so up and down, I think having a wife and a family as a solid nucleus really does ground me, to be honest. I thought growing up that I just loved spontaneity, you know. But I've realised as I've got older that actually I need constant, you know what I mean, to make me feel, I guess, safe, and wanted and valued and loved, you know what I mean? And I think if you have that and you know that, it's one thing I'll say about Juliet, is I know without a shadow of a doubt that she loves me and she always will. And I'm lucky to have someone in my life like that. But I think if you have that, it makes everything else so much more easy. You're not going to bed like feeling lonely or sad, or, you know, like it's just, it's great, you know. And I'm a Gemini, and I think, I don't know how much you read into that, but, you know, very up and down. I can be the happiest person in the world and the saddest person in the world, even when things are great. And I constantly just remind myself, you know, you've got a great woman there, and an amazing child. And a lot of people want that, and unfortunately can't have it as well, you know. And I hope, you know, the people who want that and can't have it get that, you know.
Find it, yeah.
Yeah.
There's obviously different versions of it as well, isn't there, for people? So it's just trying to find what their version of that looks like, isn't it?
I'm just thankful for the blessings I have, do you know what I mean? I just think it's really important. Good. That's another thing. Therapy, again, going on about it again, but it's just
really helped you kind of find that.
Yeah, what's the word? The words escape me. It's better way of saying just like be thankful for what you've got. Optimistic, you know, like it's gone. It might come back, but it's important to just have that positive mindset.
Yeah.
You know, because if you keep thinking about things you don't have rather than things you do have, it's a pretty dark road, isn't it? You know.
Yeah, very much so. You're forever chasing something and you're not appreciating what you've got in front of you.
Yeah, it's really hard to be content sometimes. I think I do count myself as an ambitious person. I think that is part of it. Is contented. That's the word I'm looking for.
Contented
is to be content and not always after the next thing. You know, just look at the journey you're on. You know. The journey is as important as the destination, but like if you dwell on the things aren't right, it's just going to eat you up, you know. And
I think it's a hard balance to get right, because, like, we don't get a second go at this, and as humans, it's like, you know, we always want to try to excel in something and become better at something and grow beyond what we were, which is, think is a healthy mindset to have as a human being, because, you know,
what else is there? You've got to grow on this journey, you know.
Yeah, that's right.
I think that's when people get really depressed, is when they feel like they don't have a purpose. If you ask yourself for too long, like, what am I here for? What should I be doing? I thought this during COVID, actually, like, and again, about routine and consistency, and without something to get up for, you know, man, you know what I mean? You need some, I think as a species, right, it's just my personal view, like, we need something to do. If we don't have something to do, you start attending inward or outward to people, you know, you take it out somewhere, you know. And you got, like you said, you got to grow without goals. Like, if you might not achieve the goals, but having something to strive for, chances are you've done some pretty cool stuff along the way. That you can be, hopefully,
grateful, contented with, grateful for, definitely. So what's next for the Moonshine Heavies?
Well, we've had a solid year of gigging. So between now and December, we're recording our EP, which will be released 2nd of February. That's looking at being a 5 or 6 song compilation. Aiming to have another single out this year, just before the end of the year. You don't want to release music over Christmas unless you're wearing a Santa hat. So it'll be after that, you know.
Yeah, that makes
Dry
sense.
January gets out the way. People want to look for new music, so we're going to have an EP released. I think it's going to be Friday the 2nd of February. That's the current plan.
Right.
And we'll probably coincide that with a gig, a launch party, venue to be confirmed. And then we're hoping to get as much radio play as possible, as many people just loving the music, talking to their friends about it. And off the back of that, we're going to try and plan some dates that are outside of London, and some festivals. That's the goals.
That's the aspirations.
Yeah. And I think I'm quite pleased that it's September now. That for the remaining part of the year, we're recording. We've done enough gigs, you know. I won't say people will get sick of us, but unless you've got new songs to focus, I'd like to record what we've got to a really high standard and have some writing. I've got tons of songs that a lot of the band haven't even heard yet, you know, and work on you know, backing vocals and things like that, you know. Whenever we work on a song, it's usually in a practice room where there's drum kit, all the amps, it's really loud. Sometimes you can't hear yourself think. I'd quite like to connect with members of the band on a slightly more personal level, intimate level, where it's just me and a guitar with one or a couple of them, and just sort of oscillate that and just maybe
see how it evolves into
get the best out of each person, you know. Sometimes, or just hanging out with a beer. Like, I mean, drummers are hugely creative in the context of a band. If your drummer can't play an instrument other than the drums, it doesn't mean that they're not involved in the writing. So even sometimes just hanging out and just talking about music, you know, is important as the actual writing. And just, I mean, you end up being a bit of a family anyway. That's how the band feels to me now.
Yeah, 100%. I can imagine that, which is, you know, that's nice. It's nice that you've got, like, you know, different families in different places.
We're sort of getting to that stage now where, like, some of them feel like slightly annoying siblings.
Yeah.
You know,
that's what probably Nemo thinks about me, to be fair. Yeah, he's shaking his head.
Yeah, no, we're all getting quite comfortable to being like, oh, I'm not sure maybe that was a bit cheesy, that bit Alex, and I'm like, what? It wasn't cheesy. You're like, yeah, it probably was cheesy. So honesty is good, but first I'm like, shut the hell up.
Yeah,
you know?
yeah. When you get like quite comfortable with people, yeah.
But that's what being in a band should be, really, you know. 5 people with their own ideas that work together. That's the magic of it. 5 or 6 now, individuals just, and I'd really like to focus on that. I think you said it's earlier, but I think one thing that our music's missing to a degree is some really good harmonies, and I can write harmonies. And I just think it would elevate the music a lot more. But that takes time, because you got to try several
and perseverance.
Yeah, you know, like you record a vocal on your laptop or whatever. And for me, the harmony thing is like just trying what you can hear up here. Does that sound great? No. Does this one sound great? Yeah, maybe. And to out of context of hearing it with the other vocal, you can sound like a dying cat to the neighbours. But we need to go through that, you know? Because when you hit that sweet
journey.
spot, it's angelic, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah, just hanging out, chilling a bit more for the year, because it can be a bit of... Playing live is amazing, but dealing with promoters is not. And there's always such pressure to sell tickets. You know, beyond being a singer and a songwriter and a performer, a huge part of it is pestering people to buy your tickets. Because if you don't bring the numbers, you're not getting the gigs. And it can be exhausting sometimes, just being a constant hype man, you know. And you're not going to keep getting people coming to your shows if it's the same set. So this is part of the reason why at the end of the year, let's work on
new
some
content, new songs, right?
You're always going to grow from it, you know. So so just to recap, EP 2nd of Feb, launch party location to be confirmed, and then hopefully just Glasgow Pyramid Stage.
I hope so. I'll be definitely coming if that's the case.
Yeah.
No, well, all I can say is thank you for coming on today.
No worries. I enjoyed it.
I'll be keeping an eye on you along your journey, and I'll definitely have to come to one of your. Maybe me and Nemo can go. And
yeah, I'll let you know. I'll let you guys know. Yeah. I am always trying to sell tickets. Guest list, you guys. Yeah. Although the unfortunate thing is, the guest list really is. I end up having to pay.
Yeah.
That's
is that
secret.
what it is?
Yeah, I'll get you on the guest list.
Yeah.
Tell me. Yeah, but guys, we will.
Yeah, 100%.
Occasionally you do. It depends on the promoter. Some of them really do give you guest lists, but a lot of them just don't. But people have this idea that unless he's put me on this guest list, I'm not coming, man. But it's there's not a lot of money in music at the moment at this level, so I shouldn't diss the promoters too much, but they are greedy. I've derailed to Convo again.
There's probably a lot of costs as well, isn't there?
I mean, that basically, you know, to run these nights, they employ teams and it's paying somebody's wages to be thinking about putting on gigs throughout the week, throughout the year. So I get it. Just it is what it is.
It is what it is. That's it. Yeah. Well, Alex, thank you again, pal.
No worries, mate.
Cheers.
Yeah.